This episode is proudly supported by East Coast Beverages.
So my name's Samuel James Lentini. Really what's special about East Coast Beverages and about what we do is that we are vertically integrated. We grow, we squeeze, we bottle, we blend everything here on site. And not only that, I think what is really special is that all of the bars and restaurants and hospitality venues, they're able to come and visit our site. And once they come to our site, they see what our process is and they can actually see that the lemons, limes and oranges are all getting squeezed here, where we're not using a concentrate that comes from overseas. What is really special is that we invite people to come here. We have events here, and we're a family business, and we're able to really just work off the foundations that my grandfather built many years ago and continue a quality product range.
For more information, go to eastcoastbeverages.com.au.
I love making people feel special. I love seeing staff happy, So I love seeing people grow and get better at their job. I love seeing bums on seats, of course, but yeah, I love every aspect of it.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. For years, Joey Commerford was front of house at some of Australia's most respected restaurants like Monde and the Press Club. Now he's opened his first solo spot, Bistro Ebony, with a clear goal to swap the fine dining fuss for a more casual, everyday experience. Joey, how are you?
Good, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's awesome to get you on the show. You're right in the heart of the city there in Sydney. How are things going?
Yeah, going great so far. We opened the restaurant 2 days ago, so Tuesday, the day after a public holiday weekend after NRL Grand Final, right? I thought it'd be a little bit quiet, to be fair, but it definitely picked up much more than I expected from the onset. So, yeah, pretty happy, huh? It's all going pretty well.
Opening a restaurant is not for the faint-hearted. What's this last couple of months been like for you?
Look, it hasn't been a couple of months. Realistically, it's been about a year and a half, right?
Wow.
Yeah. I looked at the site originally, late October, early November last year. I was still living in Brizzy at the time. Been there for the past 5 years, and I saw this site and I fell in love with it, right? And it's been a labour of love ever since then, right? I did a lot of it through proxies for the first part, and then boots on the ground about three months ago. So yeah, long story short, it's been pretty full on, but I love it.
You've worked at some pretty incredible restaurants, which we will get into, but tell us a little bit about Bistro Ebony and what you're doing there.
Yeah, look, I wanted to create a restaurant, or have my whole life, to be fair. Wanted to create a restaurant that was hospitality first. I find that things can get quite transactional at times, and obviously everyone needs to make money to pay the bills, but I really wanted to make sure that I made a restaurant that is full of warmth and love. So I guess everything we're doing with a restaurant is based around that kind of brand vision. Every table gets bread, like the old school way, bread and butter. We've got this beautiful sourdough that we serve. Every guest is treated, like a brother or a sister with heaps of love. The menu that we've got, although it's like super precise and really, really good cooking, it's very, very affordable. We wanted to make a restaurant that people would come back to multiple times a week and not feel like they were burning a hole in their back pocket, especially in this, this time that we're living in, right? So there's no main above $52. There's no entree above 40, and most of the entrees are below $27. The only dish above it is a marin, is a full marin, which is $39. So, look, it is doable if you can believe it. But like I said, but I really wanted to make sure it was affordable, right? Because I consider that part of hospitality. I don't want people walking away from an experience going, the food was good, but I felt like they took the mickey a little bit, right? That's just not who I am. So we kind of try to make everything fall in line with that.
Your skills are front of house. Who have you got leading the kitchen, and is there a dish or two that you can tell us about that sort of speaks of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so last year I was contracting to a restaurant called Alpha in Sydney. And I met a guy called Alessandro. So he was the executive chef of Alpha and Beta. I love the guy. He's a really, really good person, family man. Obviously can cook really well. He's a great cook. He's from Florence, Italy. So there's quite a lot of his DNA on the menu. You know, he's got the saltimbocca with prosciutto. Is done obviously a little bit more modern in its style. Super delicious, slow cooked, seared in the pan with a Bernadette. Really, really lovely. We've got a cotoletta, so it's a full veal, 300-gram cotoletta on the bone that we bash out, crumb and shallow fry, and my favourite thing in the world, which is butter. Um, and it's served really simply. It's served with like lemon and dry fried oregano, right? So just like I said, really good cooking, really good value, something you can like that you would recognize and understand, but the product would just speak for itself.
You've spent your career working for other people, and this is your first sort of venture. What's it been like as the restaurateur and owner? Has it been a very different ride for you so far?
Oh my God, so different. I've run companies, with 400 people inside them, right? Like multifaceted, not just fine dining. I've opened bakeries, cafes, event centers. I had a heap of people that work underneath me. It's a different kind of pressure, to be honest with you. It's a completely different kettle of fish. You have to think about making sure that the team is looked after in terms of making sure they're getting paid, making sure they're getting super. And obviously we're going to do that, but you need to make sure as an owner, right, that you're looking after the people that make the venue great. So that's a different kind of pressure, 100%. There's also like obviously plenty of complexities with opening a restaurant that you may not get exposed to unless you do the back ends, the financials. So that's been a positive kind of pressure, I would say. Like, I always love to learn something new and like to put myself in positions that I haven't been in. That's why I'm in the industry. So I don't look at it as a negative, to be fair, but yeah, it's a pressurized situation, 100%.
Well, I want to jump into what you're doing there in greater detail shortly, and the year ahead for you as well. But take us back to when you were young. Whereabouts did you grow up, and was food sort of core to your family?
Everything. Yeah. The writing was on the wall from a young age, right? So it really was. I grew up on a little farm, about 30 acres in regional Victoria, a place called Tangel South, so based in Mount Bauble. My dad and my brother were big fishermen and deer hunters. So I learned to respect proteins and use end to end of an ingredient, right, and not waste anything. We had our own milk on the farm. We had our own produce, had our own orchard as well. We still have our own orchard on the property. Yeah, Mum and Dad have lived there for 35 years. They will never ever move out. It's super beautiful. It's just the most beautiful place. So I guess we've got that side, right? So from when I was a kid, but my mum's Mauritian, right? She's from Mauritius, and they came over when she was 13, the whole family on a boat. Mauritius culture everything is about hospitality, absolutely everything. Everything's about making sure that people are looked after and felt special, and everything revolves around food. So if we're talking about, I guess, the deep passion for food, it came from my grandfather. I can't even talk about it without getting emotional. He taught me everything, really. He literally lived in the same house for 60 years. He grew his own vegetables in his suburban backyard in Mulgrave, Victoria, so eastern suburbs of Melbourne. He would spend the whole day in the kitchen cooking, like the whole day, right? So before he died, he taught me all the secret recipes that he wouldn't share with anyone, and instilled all that love into me. I've actually got the wok. So he's got Mauritians. They've got a lot of Chinese influence, a lot of Indian influence, and French influence, right? So it's a bit of a hot pot in terms of their cooking style. Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. You would think it's all French because they were colonized, right? But they do everything from their take on like Chinese noodles, but they do it with this like kind of vinegared water. Do like Indian samosas, but going back to that Locke, so I put it in the restaurant at 60 years old, and he gave it to me before he died, and I've just got it at the front entrance, so everyone can see it. Yeah, I don't even want to use it these days. It's got all like, all of the oil that's kind of crystallized on the outside of it. It's really, really cool. But yeah, look, going back to the inspiration, it's from him, to be honest with you. He cooks, like I said, every single day. And I do it myself, right? I do it as a sense of calm. I do it on my days off. I roll pasta. I make curries. I do it all when it came from him.
Is there a dish of his that you hold sort of dear to your heart that you can share with us?
Yeah, look, I can't share the secret recipe exactly. But yeah, look, it's a chicken curry, right? Actually, I got married in May, and we gave every guest two things. One was the secret curry spice that we had that he made that he gave to me, and the fermented chili paste that he makes from scratch. It's got a whole kaffir lime that he like blends into it, and it's preserved in oil, lasts forever. But it's basic. Yeah, it's really, really cool. It's really, really hard to make to get the ratios right. But it's basically an Indian spice-based curry powder that you sweat down with onions in the pan. Like you have to get them really soft and like translucent. You sear off chicken drumsticks, but you have to bash out the bone marrow. So you have to like break them apart and hard sear them in oil, cook them in oil, and then take them out. Get tomatoes. It takes about 6 hours, but there's heaps of tomato, heaps of ginger, and heaps of garlic. But it takes about 6 hours if you're doing it right, and it's super layered and complex. It's actually not hot as well. It's just super deep in flavour. But that's the dish that I would that would be my death row meal. I would eat that.
Yeah. I think that would be a lot of people's by the sound of it. It sounds incredible.
It's incredible, yeah.
What about your first steps into hospitality? When did you sort of get an inkling that's what you wanted to do, and what was those first steps that you took?
It's a funny one, right? Because I was a tennis player as a kid. I naturally had no idea what I was doing after I realized I wasn't any good at tennis and I couldn't make it. So I went to uni and studied a degree in sports science. Probably the worst student in the uni, to be fair, because I spent all my time in the car park of the university watching Boiling Point by Gordon Ramsay, 1998. So the writing was on the wall pretty early, but I managed to land a job. My first ever job, actually, it was my second job. My first job I got fired for not being any good, but my second job was as a glass polisher for George Calvaris at the Press Club in 2008. Yeah, so I was the lowest ranked person in the room. I used to go home because I'd polish cutlery so much that and polish glasses that my hands would get sore. But it didn't deter me, to be fair. Like I can tell you exactly the moment. Like I was watching the chefs working in the kitchen and watching the ballet on the floor, and I was like, that's it. I want to be in hospo. So it was a tough conversation with the family, to be fair, because I don't think they want to be. It doesn't sound like the best career path when you're a glass polisher, right? But I never looked back. I honestly never looked back, and I never would.
That's an incredible start to the industry. As you sort of built your career, what's been the really sort of important people and venues that you worked at?
Look, especially when I was learning, I try to take as much as I could from every venue that I worked, right? When I did a really good stint at the Royal Mail, a hotel up in the Grampians, in Dunkeld. The chefs were all supposed to do a shift in the kitchen garden. That was like one of their 5-day rosters, right? Front of house never got it, but I love that kind of stuff. Being from the country, hands in the soil, that kind of thing. It was super for me. So on my day off, I was actually in the garden learning how to grow vegetables. So from there, I learnt a lot about respecting an ingredient and seeing something literally from the ground up. Voudemont, the one percenters, they do the one percenters better than most, right? Every detail counts. So there's a lot of that kind of DNA in my restaurant. Like it's full of just consideration. Everything is there for a reason. So I guess I take that from them. I learned the most about the love for hospitality, though, from Press Club. Right, there's an emotional attachment for me with that. I'm an emotional guy, but emotional attachment with me for that venue. But in particular, George. Right, he's been my mentor since I was a kid. He's guided me through some tough times, and I've been with him. Like I was there to the end of Press Club, right, with him. And I was a GM of Ghazi and Press Club, and I was there to the very end. And I took the most out of the way that he handled bad situations. Always positive, always upbeat. I can only imagine what's going on in your head in that scenario, but I draw inspiration from that almost every day. You know, when an oven breaks down or when an ice machine stops producing ice, I look at a person like him to give me inspiration to get through it. So, yeah, definitely him. Yeah, 100%.
We've had him on the network telling some amazing stories before. Do you have any stories of moments with George, you know, that sort of speak of the relationship that you guys had that you can share?
Well, he spoke at my wedding, which I thought was pretty special. It was a great speech, and I was super stoked that he took the time to make a speech in front of all my friends and family. So that was great. Like I said before, like it shows true character when you're in a bad situation, right? And you project only positivity to the people that work underneath you. He obviously, went through a bad situation with, what happened, with the media, but, he handled that so well. And yeah, I think that's fantastic. And, we've had many good times on the floor and, working restaurants and doing passes and all that kind of thing. But yeah, if I'm talking about one in particular thing, it's that.
You mentioned that you spent about 5 years up in Brisbane. Tell us about the move up there. What did you do up there?
I wanted a bit of a break, to be fair. I've been working in the industry for 17 years, pushing as hard as I possibly can because that's really my personality type. But I just wanted a bit of a break, to be fair. So I wanted a bit of sunshine. My wife is from Brizzy originally, and we met at Monde actually. But we moved up there just with no expectations. I originally had a job at I went and moved to work at Stanley as a GM. I worked 2 days and then COVID hit. Yeah. So we got over the border, and I was like super excited to start work again. And then COVID hit, so obviously everything went into lockdown. So I took a forced holiday for 6 months, and then I thought, let's do something different. I've been in fine dining my whole career, and I thought, I want a more holistic approach because, not everything in life is going to be fine dining. There's going to be other areas that I need to focus on, right? So I took a job. It was a venue called Hillstone St. Lucia. They had a casual bar, casual restaurant, which absolutely pumped, and a massive event center, like a huge event center with 5 different rooms, many thousands of people a week in there. So it was a different kind of thing for me, but I loved it. I stayed there for 3 years, helped them grow the business, opened a bakery, changed the offering quite a lot. Met some great people, and then decided to do a bit of contracting here and there, and that's what took me to Sydney originally last year.
Well, let's just go back for a sec to the conference centre and that sort of casual venue. Did that experience have an impact on your overall perception of hospitality and, what it encompasses?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. Look, fine dining, they're not profitable, right? That's just the truth of it. They're high labour, high food costs, high beverage costs. But you don't know that until you experience different forms of hospitality, right? Events are much more profitable. They're all based off high volume. So that kind of planted a seed that there's different ways to approach hospitality for sure. But I also like applying the fine dining kind of mindset in a more casual setting because you can make small little tweaks and they make a big difference, right? So yeah, look, I took a lot away from it. Different ways of looking at things, how to do larger numbers. I'm actually launching a catering company as well. I launched it yesterday in the building, and I wouldn't have done that if I didn't have the experience of working there, right? It wouldn't have been at the forefront of my brain when I'm thinking, okay, I'm opening a restaurant and I'm in a building of 31 floors with corporates that need catering. That wouldn't have come to my mind, but it does come to my mind, and it makes perfect sense, right? So we launched that yesterday, and we've got quite a few clients, which is great.
You mentioned that the original lure to Sydney was a consulting gig. Tell us about that. How did it come about?
Oh, look, it was a bit of a rocky ride, to be fair. I was asked to look after Alpha for public and kind of, I guess, get it back on track a little bit. It's a very, very big venue. There was Alpha, there's Beta, which has 2.5 floors above it, and it needed a bit of refinement. It didn't work out. I worked there for 3 months, and it wasn't for me. So I went back to Brizzy.
You're in Sydney now. I'm fascinated as to how you sort of chose Sydney to open your first restaurant. How did that happen?
Look, it's been a long process. It's not been like I looked at this restaurant in October last year and pulled the trigger. I looked at sites all over Sydney and all over Brizzy. Brizzy was my original spot because I love I had a lot of friends up there, and I love the environment. I love the people. People in Brizzy are super lovely. Like, they're just lovely people. So my heart was in Brizzy, but my style that I was going for, I just don't think that it would resonate with the Brisbane clientele. When I was in Sydney last year, and I dined out a lot. I went to all the big boys, Mimi's, probably my favorite restaurant at the moment. Went to all the big restaurants, right? And I was just in awe of how all of them are good. And I just you don't get that. I didn't get that from Melbourne. I didn't get it from Brizzy, but I definitely got it from Sydney. So I thought, hey, why not throw my cap in the ring down here? And I actually looked at 5 venues and got pretty deep into the conversations for pretty much all of them. So it's been a massive a lot of ups and downs, right, as you probably would expect. But, yeah, we got there.
Well, what was so special about the venue that you've landed on? Is there something sort of unique about it?
Yeah, well, locality is a big one, right? It's right in that financial pocket. So corporate trade, I want to believe, will come in pretty thick and fast. The fact that it's part of a big corporate building, right? It's like I said before, 31 floors. A lot of people that need catering ticked a big box for me. I also have a cafe in that building. So there's a few different arms to the business, right? And we all know that hospitality can be tough at times, and restaurants go up and they go down. But if you've got the catering component, you've got the cafe component, it definitely helps out for sure. So that was a big tick for me, 100%.
You're renowned for your approach to the front of house. Give us a sort of sense of, what makes great service, and what do how do you fire up your front of house team to deliver on sort of excellence, but making sure that it's casual as well at the same time?
Look, there's a misconception that fine dining needs to be like super tight and very like formal and rigid, right? Like, the best restaurants I've been to in the world, things like restaurants like Odette, like, they are casual, but they are polished. They put things down on the table and can explain the dishes properly, but they can still be casual. You can put a $65 class on the table, but you can still not overwank it, right? So when we're talking to the team, like, it's all about obviously making sure you polish, but making sure that the guest has a good time, right? We're in it to be hospitable. So everything that we're doing is around making sure that they leave here happy. I always think about like restaurants, or the guests being in a bubble, right? When they're in the restaurant, they're in this kind of happy land, right? And your job is to make sure that they stay in that bubble, so looking after them, taking care of them, being attentive for them, and making them feel special makes them stay in that bubble. So all of the stuff that we do here is, exactly doing that, right? Making people feel loved, and things like putting bread on the table when they don't expect it, or if there's a dish that's saucy, bringing out a little something to soak it up, or shouting them a glass of sparkling on the anniversary. That's what our team has been empowered to do, right? They don't have to ask me for permission to give a table a glass of wine. If it's their anniversary, they 100% deserve to have a glass of champagne. So we're going to give that. If someone comes in and they've never been here before, and send another little one tray. Why not? I think that's hospitality.
What about on the business side of things? You sort of mentioned a bit earlier about the sort of slim margins and of sort of finer dining. You've got a couple of arms to the business, but what advice would you have for people looking to open their own venue, to turn a profit but maintain their sort of ethics and goals?
I take the 95 and 5 rule, right? So 95 being tight, 5% being free to do things to make guests feel happy, right? So look after the things that really kill or make a business, right? Labor, food, beverage cost, but have 5% tucked away to make sure that you can give that little bit of an extra experience for the guests, right? So doesn't mean we're going, hey, here's a glass of wine to every person in the room. But we've allocated 5% of what we spend per week or what we make per week on making sure we can dreamweave a little bit, right? But you've got to keep that labor in check. Labor's expensive.
That's some great advice. I know you're only a few days into opening, but what was it like for you opening the doors of your own venue for the first time?
Surreal, honestly, surreal. God, I can't even talk about it without getting emotional. To be fair. But it is surreal. Like, I've dreamt about this since I was 18 years old. I've given it absolutely every bit of my DNA. I've put in the most obscene hours to make this happen. And yeah, it means everything. I've got heaps of support though, right? Like, I've got the best wife in the world, Brie, who's been like 100% behind me since the start. I've got a great team. I've got like a fantastic general manager, Jordan. He used to work at 11 Madison Park, but he shares very similar core values to me, which is, hospitality first, make sure the guests feel special. And I've got a great chef, right? So I'm lucky that I've got a good support network around me, for sure. But yeah.
Well, it's very exciting what you're building there, but what do you love about what you do?
Well, I love it. I love every part of it. I love serving guests. You'll see me on the floor every service for every day that we're open. I do my office work when I'm not on the floor, but I love talking, making people feel special. I love seeing staff happy. I'm not too sure if it's been talked about before, but the restaurant industry is pretty hardcore, right? And often, people get a bit soured by the industry. So I love seeing people grow and get better at their job. I love seeing bums on seats, of course, but yeah, I love every aspect of it. It sounds very cliche to say that, but I really do. I love every part of it.
Well, we love the energy that you have and very excited about this new opening in Sydney. An absolute honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear just a part of your story. Can't wait to hear what you do next, Joey. So please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Stay safe and be well.